Good morning. Welcome to the breakout session, From Zero to Hero, Earning and Spending Your First Dollar with Unity. In this session, we'll talk about the key steps to position your game for commercial success from the very first dollar invested. A little bit about myself. My name is Dominic. Jacynas. I'm a senior growth partner at Unity. As part of the Growth Solutions Group, I focus building UA and monetization strategies for fast-growing game studios globally. A bit about my professional journey. I've spent more than 10 years in mobile gaming and marketing industries, and over 4 years at Unity, where I work with studios that scale their mobile titles literally from zero to $1 million business. And before Unity, I had a pleasure to work on solutions focused on app and game discovery, monetization, cross-promotion, and brand advertising. Cool. So I want to start with a very quick peek at the mobile games market. And we can state with a lot of confidence that today, there's more players playing on mobile than ever before, with July 2024 being an all-time peak. And this trend shows consistent year-over-year growth, which for us as game developers presents an opportunity not only to find, but also to engage players in a very impactful way. Cool. So we know we're in good times and company to be building games. And over the next 45 minutes, I'll cover some common questions that you might have as you finish building your new, shiny mobile game. Questions like, I need players, but I have no budget. How do I find money for user acquisition? Or, I do have budget, so how to invest to maximize the outcomes? I also want to discuss ways to start making money in your game. So, what are your monetization options in 2024? Or, how can you introduce ads into your game without hurting player experience? And finally, we'll look at all the helpful tools you will need to get started. Cool. Let's dive in. All of the questions that I just raised, they can be answered by utilizing what we here at Unity call the game growth loop. The Unity game growth loop covers the entire studio's journey from building a game all the way through to commercial success. And it starts with building your game in the Unity editor. And once you've built that game, you want to focus on two key parts of the growth loop. So first, user acquisition and how to acquire a loyal user base. And second, monetization and how to make your game financially successful. I want to dive into each half of the growth loop equation and cover what you should expect at each stage. Cool. So the first phase is user acquisition. You have your game ready. The content is there for players to enjoy. Now you need users to start building a user base that, first of all, truly enjoys your game, and then secondly, provides you with data that will be crucial for building a well-functioning monetization machine. Cool, so how do you even start with acquiring users? At this point, it's really typical to start asking questions. Why should I invest in UA? Is it not enough just to publish on the App Store and then expect for the discovery algorithm to take care of the rest? And if paid UA is the way, then where do you get the budget, right? And then finally, when you sort the budget question, the biggest question of all, how and where do I start my user acquisition journey? So the easiest one to answer, why invest in UA? And not to sugarcoat it, and you guys probably know better, the App Store is really, really competitive, with over 1,000 apps launching on both the App Store and Google Play every day. And we know the organic success stories, Flappy Birds and the Among Us. and a few others, but they are very rare, which really illustrates that relying on organic growth is really tough. And for this reason, mobile studios are looking for more consistent and reliable ways to grow. And if we look at the data, it seems very clear that developers are choosing performance marketing. In 2023, mobile game devs spent over $29 billion on UA ad campaigns, and $12 billion of that was in US only. And this number keeps growing every year. Cool. So the industry tells us paid user acquisition is the way to go. Now that we have decided to invest in UA, how can you secure a budget? So I want to go through a few very simple or the most common ways for raising budget. And in my experience of working with multiple developers, the simplest path is going to work with a publisher. First of all, it will provide you not only the financial support, but also marketing experience, tools, and industry connections. And then if you don't know where to start, you might want to have a look at Unity's own Supersonic Studios. I'm sure they might be able to help you. Or you also have in Europe, you have quite a lot of well-known publishers such as Miniclip, Boombit, or Voodoo Games. You might also want to explore venture capital. They can also provide financial backing and same connections and the know-how of how to run a mobile business. And there's also alternative strategies. You have crowdfunding, you have grants, you have competitions, and finally, and the key point I wanted to make here is when all else fails, consider bootstrapping. You can literally start a mobile UA campaign and start growing your game with just a few $1,000s in your budget. It does require knowing your users well, and you will need to be smarted with budget utilization, obviously, but it's definitely doable. Amazing. So now that we sorted the budget part, how to ensure we invest with maximum outcome? Let's look at what we need to consider before spending our first dollar. First of all, you will want to integrate a mobile measurement partner. And you might ask, what is a mobile measurement partner? Setting the key KPIs, which metrics should you track for success? Building a player persona? Do I know who's that person behind the smartphone screen? And then lastly, choosing the right channel mix. You have options that are very wide, from ad networks to connected TV to social and influencer media. Cool. So I'm going to answer the first one. Why use a mobile measurement partner? An MMP is a tool that helps you track user acquisition and marketing performance across different places in a single centralized dashboard. It's a single source of truth which offers performance dashboards, making it easy for you as someone running UA to analyze the performance and your investment. And it eliminates the need to work with multiple data sources and also eliminates the need to invest in your own reporting tools. It also simplifies tracking return on investment and lifetime value, which ensures that you're investing your money in a very smart, data-driven way. And lastly, the MMPs are so useful for providing you with benchmarks. They allow you to compare your game in terms of performance metrics against similar games in your genre. And this will be invaluable when building the initial KPIs for your game. Cool. So we have our MMP ready. We ask ourselves, what should I track, right? So when running mobile UA, you want to focus on 3 key areas: performance, engagement, and monetization. Performance KPIs measure how efficiently your campaigns drive installs. Key metrics here include cost per install, conversion rate, and store-to-install rate. These KPIs will help you optimize creative strategy, App Store listing, as well as campaign setup and targeting. Then you have your engagement KPIs. They monitor how actively users interact with the game. Main metrics include retention rate, day 1, day 7, day 28, average session length, and tutorial completion rate. All of them will inform your game design and user experience decisions. And then finally, you have your monetization KPIs. They focus on financial success of the game. You have your average revenue per daily active user. You have average revenue per user, average revenue per paying user. These will gauge monetization effectiveness. And then ROAS and LTV will measure short and long-term profitability. So you really want to keep track on that. All these monetization KPIs will help you decide if you're ready to scale your game or if you need to rethink your strategy. Because in the end, what matters is to reach this equation. As long as you can keep your cost per install below the average lifetime value, and you can do that at scale, your game is a success. Cool. So now that we're almost ready to launch, there's one extra step that's often overlooked even by very experienced studios and UA managers, which is building a player persona and understanding who is the person playing my game. And maybe it's Alex, a 32-year-old developer from Berlin, who plays strategy games on his commute. So narrowing down on these few player personas that fit your category, genre, and game theme, it will help you to build a more efficient UA strategy, and also to understand how, where, and with what messaging you should approach your UA strategy. Funny guy, right? Beautiful. So we have our tools ready, success metrics are in place, and we even know our target audience. So how do you pick a channel to start user acquisition activity? First, filter digital versus traditional. Traditional channels like TV, billboards, they are very difficult for mobile UA. Less targeted, harder to track, and they require really big budgets. So for that reason, I'm going to skip this part and move on straight to digital channels. And here you have several options. First of all, you have your mobile ad networks. They offer flexibility, targeting, and ability to optimize towards profitability. You can start an ad network campaign with literally just a few $1,000s in your budget. Your next option is social media ads, which drive broad visibility and engagement. And then, while App Store search ads reach users that are already in a market for a game like yours, this is also an option you might want to consider. And then lastly, you have influencer marketing. It builds credibility and attracts engaged users. So you really have a lot of options to consider here. And long-term, a successful UA strategy will use multiple channels and a mix of all of these. However, for the very initial first dollar investment, mobile ad networks stand out for, first of all, their versatility, and second of all, performance-focused approach. Cool, so we're here. We've decided to focus our UA efforts on mobile ad networks. And there are many options to choose from. You have your Unity ads, you have Google ads, IronSource, Moloko, Liftoff, and so many others. And just for the sake of simplicity of this presentation, I'll cover the next few slides from the perspective of running a UA campaign on Unity ads. But the campaign types and optimization strategies would be fairly similar no matter which major network you choose. So when launching a mobile UA campaign, the first step is selecting your campaign type. You'll usually start with an app install campaign to gather initial data. And once eligible, you can then move to more advanced performance-optimized campaigns. And depending on your goals and where you are in your growth journey, you will choose between 3 types of campaigns. So retention optimization, which focuses on keeping users engaged until day 7, attracting high-quality players. And then you have return on ad spend, or ROAS campaigns. They target a very specific return on investment, usually also in a day 7 window. And it optimizes based on either in-app purchase revenue, ad revenue, or a hybrid of both, depending on your genre and monetization model. And finally, you have your event optimization campaigns. They target users likely to complete a certain event within your game, such as tutorial, and allow you to make sure that you attract users that will engage with your game. Cool. So once we select our campaign type, you will want to follow these key steps for the setup. First of all, choose your geo-targets. Focus on regions where your game is likely to succeed, based as well on genre, category, because it really differs from strategy games to RPG to puzzles. And especially in the early stages, start with less competitive markets like Poland or Italy or Spain, and expand to tier 1 countries once you're comfortable with your metrics. And then you can expand in geos like US, UK, or Germany. The next step is setting your budget. Initially, we recommend starting with a few $100s as a daily spend budget, and then optimize based on performance. And lastly, you will want to define your goals. For install campaigns, focus on cost per install. For example, $1.20. And for ROAS, you will aim for specific day 7 performance goal. For example, to bring back 25% of money invested. And once everything is ready, you will want to set up your creatives. They're engaging, high-quality ads that are crucial to attract the right players and boost campaign performance. So now that our campaign is almost ready, let's focus on our creative strategy. You have 2 main creative options. Video ads, including rewarded video and interstitials. They're highly engaging, while rewarded videos in particular offer players something in exchange for watching. And this boosts engagement even more. And next you have playable ads, which allow you to experience a tiny version of your game before downloading, which can also improve many UA metrics from conversion to retention rate and ROAS. And both of these ad types are enhanced with end cards. So it's an ad unit that provides a clear call to action for easy installation. When developing creatives for your new mobile game, follow these key steps. First, come up with 5 to 6 concept ideas and make them very different. Gameplay video, show the meta layer of your game. An animated video or a playable ad, and then another playable ad with an altered gameplay. And then in the end, you might even consider user-generated content. Once you have the concepts ready, produce 3 to 4 creatives. Focus on quality, but leave space for creativity. And then, once you have the production ready, mix and match creatives, both video and playable, with different end cards. Testing these combos will help you understand what works best and will give you data for future iterations. And then finally, test, evaluate, and iterate. There are literally no wrong answers here. Even the funniest or simplest ads, I've seen them working really, really well. So test them. And here are just a few concept ideas that we've seen working so well on the Unity Ads network. So for video, try user-generated content. Show your future players how others enjoy your game. Experiment with different creative lengths, 15 seconds to 60 seconds. It's so different. And the longer ads allow you to show very different aspects of your game. Use interactive end cards. And finally, don't forget seasonal creative, as they can be extremely impactful, especially during the key seasons of the year. And then for playable ads, focus on longer gameplay, anything more than 10 interactions. Include auto redirect that moves users to the App Store. Keep the call to action visible on screen at all times. And also introduce the progression loop, allowing players to lose, upgrade, and win. Perfect. My campaign is live, so what's next? You're now entering what we call the campaign optimization cycle. And there's 3 key stages here. You start by analyzing cohorted results, usually in a day 7 cohort, focusing on metrics like ROAS, retention, and budget utilization. You will then want to make adjustments to creatives, budget, and performance targets based on these insights. And then lastly, as performance improves, scale and repeat the whole process. Perfect. So we're almost done with the UA part. So to wrap up, just a few key things that will guarantee success for user acquisition. First, define your success metrics and set up data and tracking. Then understand your player persona and establish creative iteration flow. And finally, as you expand, diversify your UA channels, because there's so much more to explore. Beautiful. So we're done with the UA part. I'm going to get some water. Now I'm going to cover next how to start making the first dollar in your game. Are we still energized? Everyone's still with us? Cool. Beautiful. Great. So, yeah, as I said, we know how to find players now. Our campaigns are live. The user base is growing. So how do we make sure that we're monetizing those users correctly and we're building a sustainable gaming business? So let's move to the next phase of the growth loop and discuss how to look at monetization. And the goal here is to maximize the average revenue per daily active user. In the next part of my presentation, I'll cover all the ways to start monetizing from scratch and discuss all the helpful tools such as ad networks, mediation, and the offer wall. These tools are essential in organizing your monetization stack. Cool. So similar to UA, as you're just approaching monetization, you will definitely have questions. Let's dive into the most common ones. For example, what are the common ways to make money in a game? Or how to start monetizing and what best practices to follow in 2024? And then lastly, what tools can I use to build and optimize my monetization strategy? So first, let's cover the 2 main revenue streams for a mobile game. On one side, you have your in-app purchases. And then on the other side, you have in-app advertising. In-app purchases are the type of microtransactions that allow players to buy virtual items, currency, or features in your game. They drive revenue for publishers, at the same time enhancing the experience for players. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have in-app advertising. This is displaying ads within a game to generate revenue. And some common formats include rewarded video ads, interstitials, and banners, allowing players to access the game for free, while publishers can earn from advertising budgets. But simply having these two strategies doesn't necessarily guarantee financial success. You will also have to make sure that your users are both retained over time and also engaged in your game. Because engaged players end up spending on in-app purchases or watching ads, while the longer a player retains, the more time they will have to engage. Both revenue from ads and in-app purchases factor into a metric called average revenue per user. It's then multiplied by your game's ability to retain and engage users. And all of these components together form what's called a user overall lifetime value, or LTV. And as you progress in developing your monetization stack, you will want to follow the most impactful strategies for monetizing your user base. First of all, segmenting your players. Adjusting your monetization strategy based on progression. Monetizing your non-payers with ads. And then finally, finding a monetization balance that really suits your game. Because every case is very special and individual. The first step in monetizing your players is segmenting them. So you can segment them into payers and non-payers. This helps you identify who will make in-app purchases and who should be monetized with ads. Also consider monetization nuances in different geos. And A/B test to find the right balance of in-app advertising and in-app purchases. Cool. So actually, let's have a look at how player segmentation looks like. You can segment users by engagement and spending behavior. Casual players spend just a few minutes a day, while hardcore gamers play for hours. While spending is vertical, or likelihood to convert, shows how much a user is willing to spend. And historically, developers focused on moving players to the second quadrant, which is hardcore players who spend. However, today, you can monetize all four types of users through both in-app purchases and in-app advertising. For example, Group 1 players spend money but are less engaged. Rewarded ads can boost their engagement with rewards like power-ups or energy. And then if they fail a level, offering a video to complete it increases engagement. On the IP side, starter packs work really well for these users, getting them more involved in the game. And then on the very opposite side, Group 4 users are highly engaged but unwilling to spend on in-app purchases. They respond well to rewarded ads like rewarded video or the offer wall, exchanging time for premium currency or premium features in your game. Some of these users convert to payers after actually experiencing the reward system, which actually encourages them to make in-app purchases in the future and moves them to Group 2. Perfect. So now we have segmented our players. The next step is to adjust your monetization strategy based on where players are in your game and meeting them exactly where they are. You will want to focus on dividing your game into stages, converting players to payers early in the life cycle, and finally introducing rewarded videos to establish a revenue baseline. Cool. So what do I mean when I say you need to divide your game based on player progression? You need to adapt your monetization strategy according to both player progression and segmented group. In this example, we split players into 3 stages: the early game, mid-game, and late game. With different monetization elements at each stage, and the timeframes are 1 week, 2 weeks, or more. But these timeframes can vary depending on the game or the genre. In the early game, the goal is to engage and convert players who are learning the core loop and game progression. You should provide enough resources for them to experiment and focus on starter bundles, energy systems, and optional rewarded ads. Then the next stage, mid-game. The focus here shifts to retention and conversion. By now, players have already developed habits within your game. And this is when you introduce social multiplayer systems and seasonal events. In-app purchase mechanics like piggy banks, boosters, gacha, and subscriptions become key at this stage. And then you have your late game. Here, it's all about conversion and increasing complexity. Monetization revolves around time-limited events, season passes, and special bundles. And then the currency being a strong seller as progression becomes tougher and tougher. Cool. A very crucial point for the mid-game stage to know is that 75% of players who will ever make a purchase in your game, they will do so by day 25. And for this reason, it's essential to focus on converting mid-game players with tailored offers that suit their current stage in the game. It's also important to know that even the best and most successful games struggle to convert players into payers. And even the top performing games have just over 3% of players who actually ever make a purchase. Which leads me to my next point. Monetize your non-payers with ads. And here I want to look at different ad formats to monetize players. Why ad placement matters for a positive player experience. And how can ads boost retention when implemented correctly? Cool. So first of all, these are the basic and most popular formats on mobile. Since only about 3% of players will ever buy in-app purchases, ad monetization will help you monetize the remaining 27%. And before implementing ads, you will want to really understand how each format works. On one side, you have your user-initiated ads, rewarded video, and the offer wall. And then on the other side, you have your system-initiated ads, like banners and interstitials, which don't really require an opt-in from the user. And the best ad format for your game heavily depends on the genre. Where and when you show your ad is really crucial. You want to capture your users at key pinch points. For example, when players run out of resources and need a rewarded video for extra lives. Timely ads enhance the player experience and boost ad engagement. And if done correctly, ad engagement can become a habit for users, creating a consistent ad revenue flow for your game. Correct ad implementation can also improve your game retention. So Opt-in ads allow players to progress without spending any money, keeping them in the game for longer. In this graph, we compared early, mid, and late-stage players across the genres. Higher engaged players watch more ads for two reasons. They are more engaged with your content, but also they spend more time playing. And the final point is finding the right balance for your genre. Balancing in-app advertising and in-app purchases. And this balance depends on your game genre. But it's important to know that even hardcore gamers watch ads. And even in-app purchase-focused games use ads to boost retention and tease currency or consumables. And finally, it's also important to acknowledge that introducing ads early is okay. A hybrid of in-app purchases and in-app advertising helps to capture both payers and non-payers, maximizing your revenue potential. Okay, so we found that the less successful games, or the 20th percentile, were more or less balancing their revenue between in-app purchases and advertising equally, which means it was split literally in the middle. And then on the other hand, when you look at the more successful games, or the 80th percentile, you can see that they maximize their revenue by balancing depending on the genre. So, for example, casino, RPG, and adventure games make most of their revenue from in-app purchases, while arcade, racing, and word games rely more on ads and very small portion of IAPs. And this highlights the importance of A/B testing to constantly improve your monetization strategy. Great. So now that you know the fundamentals of monetization, what are the tools that are going to help you get started? First, you have your ad networks. They're the most essential tool in your monetization stack. They connect you to the developer, with the advertiser. And the most common gaming ad networks on monetization side, again, include Unity Ads, Google Ads, or ironSource. Ad networks offer various ad formats and provide insights to help you keep optimizing your monetization. And you may ask, can I use more than one ad network? Yeah. More competition means better results and thus higher revenue. An ad mediation platform helps manage multiple ad networks in one place. Unity's own mediation platform, Level Play, streamlines in-app advertising, connecting devs to multiple ad networks through a single SDK. It also enhances user experience by controlling ad frequency, quality, and pacing to avoid player churn. And then finally, mediation also offers a centralized, simple-to-use dashboard with deeper insights and automations to maximize revenue and save time. And if you're wondering how a mediation platform works, this is a very simplified view. First, it integrates with multiple ad networks and demand sources. Then it receives an ad request and sends that ad request with each of the networks integrated. And finally, it runs a real-time auction to select the highest paying ad. And once the highest payer is chosen, it serves the ad to the end user on your phone. And then last but not least, probably the most overlooked monetization tool is the offer wall. It's a user-initiated premium marketplace. It's ideal for currency-driven game economies, where users complete offers for in-app rewards. And publishers reward those users once they get the confirmation that the offer was completed. And It's important to know that this format is utilized by some of the most successful studios like EA Games or 2K Games, Zynga, and Ubisoft. And if you want to learn more, have a look at Unity's own Tapjoy, or there's also some other very strong solutions such as Digital Turbine or Agile. And you can approach me. I'm happy to tell you more. Cool. So to wrap up this section, here's a very quick summary of the keys to successful monetization. First, segment your players. Apply in-app purchase and ad strategies tailored to every segment and every stage of your game. Adjust monetization based on player progression. And then finally, find a balance that works for your game. Amazing. So we're here at the end, and we've now completed both sides of the game growth loop. And our growth strategy is ready. Now it's time to iterate and scale your game. On the monetization side, explore tools like in-app bidding, segmentation, and ad quality. And A/B test everything, because personalized experience will maximize your player retention and revenue. And then on the UA side, explore different performance optimizers. Now that you know your players much better, focus on event optimization to drive very high impact players to your game. Consider cross-promotion as you expand your portfolio, driving users from one game to another. Because in the end, your mission is to understand your users, improve, and scale. Thank you.